Bad dog. Welcome to You Guys Podcast. I'm Rob, that's Liam, and today we're diving headfirst into the most expensive shipwreck ever filmed, Cutthroat Island, 1995. And this one is special because it's the second film in our box office bomb season, and honestly, we may have peaked early. This isn't just a bomb, this is the bomb. The king, the crown jewel, the financial crater so deep accountants still get vertigo looking at it. A film with a budget that ballooned to around 100 million and a worldwide gross that limped to roughly 10 million. A cinematic explosion so catastrophic it didn't just sink, it took the studio down with it. And look, last week I said that as a kid I enjoyed this film. Pirates, explosions, sword fights, ships on fire. It was loud and colourful, and that was enough. But now, as an adult who understands plot points, character arcs, and basic narrative structure, I have questions. Many questions. A whole treasure chest of questions, none of which the film seems interested in answering. Now, this movie didn't just flop, it detonated. It's the kind of financial disaster accountants still whisper about like it's a ghost story. I'm really obsessed with accountants today. Carolco Pictures didn't just go bankrupt. Cutthroat Island dragged the studio to the bottom of the ocean like a cursed treasure chest. And here's the wild... Do you get the pirate puns at the moment? Because they're not stopping.
Oh, yeah, no, I got a few of them kind of coming through, yeah, for sure.
And here's the wild part. The film itself isn't lazy or boring or phoned in. It's just, well, too much. Too loud, too explosive, too sweaty, too convinced it's about to become the next great Hollywood adventure. The center of all this chaos is Gina Davis, charismatic, committed, doing half her own stunts, and still somehow horribly miscast. Not because she isn't talented, but because the film needs a swaggering, roguish pirate captain, and she's been directed like she's in a Saturday morning adventure serial. It's a performance fighting against the movie around it. Matthew Modine is parkouring across rooftops when parkouring wasn't invented. The stunt team is risking their lives every 5 minutes, and the script feels like it was written by someone who communicates exclusively through shouting. Now, Liam, you've been here before with this one. You know the scale of the madness, the sweat, the explosions, the sheer we spent how much energy of it all? So let me bring you in gently. When you revisited Cutthroat Island, did it feel like an unfairly maligned swashbuckler, or does it still play like a theme park ride that refuses to slow down even after you've begged the operator to stop?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of all those things. I fundamentally agree with just about everything you said there. Like you said, it's one of those interesting movies that I think the vast majority of people only know it by reputation. You know, like Waterworld, which we covered last week. It was we mentioned the fact that yes, it's not a flop anymore, but it was for the longest time it was known as this big, huge flop. But the fact of the matter is, loads of people went to see this film. This movie sits in that same category as something along the lines of, say, Pluto Nash, where everyone's like, wait, what? Who the fuck watched Pluto Nash? I feel like even when this movie came out in 1995, I was massively into movies then. I can't remember it being a thing until after the fact. Like, it feels like the first time I heard about this movie was how big a flop it was. The same, I think I mentioned before, that happened to me with Pluto Nash. I was on holiday in France, I was in Paris, and I saw this giant poster for Pluto Nash, and I was like, what the fuck is Pluto Nash? And by the time I looked it up, they're like, oh, it's one of the biggest flops of all time. They didn't even bother releasing it in cinemas in the UK, blah, blah, blah. Now, Pluto Nash is a piece of shit. You go back and rewatch this, and you're like, it just doesn't quite work. That's like the worst thing you can say about it. It's just like nothing quite works. It's not terrible.
The best way to describe it, I think, is try hard. They're trying everything. Like, nobody can talk without explosions. Nobody can have a conversation without a saber or a dagger flying around. Like, it's absolutely insane. What you said was interesting. I don't remember this coming to the cinema. I don't even know if it did.
I don't remember it.
So, and 95, because we were talking off pod about films in the cinema around that age. So, I mentioned Jumanji, you mentioned Space Jam, 94, 96, you know. So, this is in the middle. This is clearly in the middle.
By this time, I am fully aware of what's going in at the cinema. I'm going to cinema quite regularly. I'm reading movie magazines by this point. I'm into movies. And the idea that a huge tentpole movie, one of the most expensive movies ever made, could just kind of, no pun intended, sail by without any recognition felt kind of unfathomable. And now I'm the one with all the puns. My apologies.
I thought I used them all up. The only reason I remember this as a kid, or when I first saw it, is because it did pop up in my local video shop. But it popped up with one of those, like, I don't know if you remember in your local video shop, but definitely in mine. every now and then, a film that was again trying hard
Mhm.
would have one of those 3D cardboard displays. Do you remember
Oh, yeah,
them in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. I
cinema?
remember those. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember this having a 3D cardboard display. Now, I can't
Mhm.
be making that up. I remember, and yes, it was rented, it was watched. I enjoyed it because
Mhm.
I didn't know better. I kind of know better now. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it now,
Mhm.
but you can clearly see why nobody wanted to watch this film. You can clearly see why
Well,
all the adults didn't want to go and watch it. I think you can. And like
well,
I said,
no, I
I
agree
think
with
Gina
you. But
Davis
you
is a
think about
massive problem with this in regards to being miscast.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting one because worse films have made money. Let's just get that out the way
Mm,
straight. But I
mm-hmm.
can also see, to your point, exactly why it wouldn't have really appealed to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
just like you said at the start, to stress just how big a flop this was, this is still, according to the Guinness World Book of Records, the biggest box office bomb of all time. Now, it's a bit of a tricky one because if you look at like adjusted inflation, it's actually the three Disney movies from around 2010. You can see why they went big on superhero films.
John Carter.
John Carter, Lone Ranger, and Tomorrowland, all potentially because once you're getting into
Okay,
this
you've just
range,
ruined my fucking world. Was Lone Ranger 16 years ago already?
it was something like that. Yeah, it was. It
Fuck
was.
me.
I mean, it might have been a little bit later than that, but it was before. Like basically, those three movies, they were such massive flops for Disney that were not making kind of unique. I know the Lone Ranger and John Carter are based on pre-existing IP, but you're going way, way back. They were like, well, we're going to
Yeah.
go to the well in terms of what we know is going to be a relatively safe bet. So those three films could theoretically have made bigger losses, but according to Guinness World Book of Records, this is still the biggest flop of all time, and by any standards, it lost all the money. And it's not just that, it's how little it made. You mentioned the start. I think it made 10 million in the States and then 6 million internationally. So it made 60 million, which really is just a pittance. Like,
Yeah.
John Carter, Lone Ranger, they had massive losses because they cost that much more. But this one's so interesting because a lot of people when they talk about this film, they say that it killed a genre for the longest time, and I find that quite an odd statement because looking back at the 80s and pirate films, the only ones that really stood out to me were Roman Polanski's Pirates in 86 and remember Ice Pirates in 84, and that was
I
sci-fi anyway.
loved Ice
I
Pirates.
knew you'd love Ice Pirates.
I loved
but
Ice Pirates.
but those are the only ones that really stood out. So, it wasn't like the pirate genre was booming in
No, I
1995 and then
think
suddenly
like
this came out.
The Errol Flynn days and things like the
It's
40s and
long gone,
that's what I
long
mean. Yeah,
gone.
I don't remember many. I'm trying to think back now. I mean, pirates always showed up in things, but they weren't pirate films because I think of things like
Well, the one
Baron
for us, you think about
Munchausen
us growing up.
or
Yeah, yeah.
what was the film that we watched? And I'm sorry for forgetting his name with the tiny time travelers.
Oh, Time Bandits.
Time Bandits, sorry. I've only ever seen it once,
Well,
so I
that's
just
like that's like pirate adjacent, but
but that's what I mean.
when
But
we
that's
were
what I
growing
mean.
up.
Pirates always showed up. We had pirate adjacent. We never had. I'm agreeing with you.
Exactly.
I may sound like I'm arguing with you, but
No,
I'm
no,
actually
no. I got
agreeing
you. I
with you.
got you. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, the fact that we did so, yeah, the fact that you say it killed a genre, and
I don't
well,
buy
if
it.
it did kill some sort of genre, we didn't get that back until 2005, 10 years later. Then
It was
with
2003, but that's
oh,
what I
Black Pearl
mean.
was three, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't like,
Okay.
usually what happens is, they killed a genre and then you didn't get another Western for
Yeah.
20 years, blah, blah. It's like 8 years later, the biggest pirate movie of all time came out. So it's like, it
Yeah.
wasn't like, if anything, the damage that this movie really did was to female leads in tentpole movies. You think of like this in 95 and then say something like Aeon Flux in whatever that was, 2010 with Charlize Theron. Those are the films where really I think a lot of these companies just went, listen, we can't have women as the leads in our big box office tentpole movies. And that sounds ridiculous, but you think of like Marvel. How long did it take them to make a Black Widow movie? And they had
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, one of the most bankable stars in the world. They were just like, I'm not sure about this. So I think, if anything, this did more damage to women in leading roles in temple movies than it did to the fucking pirate genre. So this whole idea that it bombed the pirate genre, it didn't really exist in 1995. Like you said, for us, when I think of pirates, I think of the Goonies. Again, pirate
Yeah.
adjacent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting as well. You say because I do agree with you. I do think that this ruined women-led roles or women-led action roles. Like absolutely.
Yeah, it was
Although-
a little nudge towards progressivism, and then we're just like,
Yeah.
there's so much money that
But
lost. We'll
I kind of
step
so.
back.
I mean, yeah, I still think I've said it a couple of times already. I still think Gina Davis, who I absolutely adore, by the way.
Mhm. Yeah, same here.
I think she was miscast,
Mhm.
and the reason. And the problem is that Renny Harlin, they were dating at the time. I actually think they got married
married.
during this. Yeah, they got married during
Yeah.
this, and they used to say that Cutthroat Island was their honeymoon. So
sounds like an awesome movie.
So he's fighting for her, and I get it, but I think he's looking through rose-tinted glasses, or he's not directing her correctly.
I think it's the latter.
Yeah, okay, I get that, and it's just absolutely nuts because she was great in another film he directed the year later, Long Kiss Goodnight. Fucking fantastic.
That's one of the great what ifs. If this film had been a massive hit and then Kiss Kiss Bang had also been a massive hit, both those movies were flops, by the way. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang not as much as this.
Are we saying sorry? Are you saying Bang Bang or Long Kiss Goodnight?
Oh, sorry, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Long Kiss Goodnight. My apologies.
Okay,
Thank you. If both of those films had been massive hits, do you reckon they'd still be married? I'm like, if she had turned into the biggest female action star in the world off the back of those two, I'm like, I reckon their marriage would still be fine. I don't think many marriages survive Cutthroat Island and The Long Kiss Goodnight.
I mean, look at Paul, bad director Anderson, and
Paul W.S. Anderson and Mila Jovovich. Yeah.
Mila Jovovich, because he's directed her in pretty much everything, and they haven't been good movies, but she's stuck around.
Yeah, but the difference
is... But they made money.
They made money, man.
Yes,
like, I know the most recent one was an absolute flop and terrible, but they made like 8 bad but really profitable Resident Evil movies.
So, before we talk about this film in whatever depth we usually talk about a film in, I have to mention that we've already said Renny Harlin and then they got married during this production, the honeymoon, blah, blah, blah. But I think the greatest love story for me to come out of this is Renny Harlin and Rex Lynn.
Yeah, because
once again, Rex Lynn is in a Renny Harlin film. I know Renny Harlin's done loads of films, Rex Lynn's, but this is the 4th now.
Yep.
And we've seen them all. We know we got one more to go. So Cliffhanger.
We've done a few of his movies on this podcast. Yeah, Cliffhanger, Die Hard 2.
Cliffhanger. But Rex Lynn wasn't in Die Hard 2.
Oh, sorry, I was just named my apologies.
So Cliffhanger, Cutthroat Island, Long Kiss Goodnight. He just played Man in Bed in Long Kiss Goodnight.
Nice.
And he's in Deep Blue Sea.
And just be clear, Deep Blue Sea is 100% in the post. I'm not sure if Deep Blue Sea is good or complete ass, but I'm really looking forward to finding out. Because all I remember is the famous scene, really, the rap.
Samuel L. Jackson scene.
Lewis, my head's just like a shot. Jesus Christ, that's rough. And the famous death scene with Samuel L. Jackson.
But I wonder if he's like Harlan's secret weapon. You know, he's a man who can deliver intensity, sweat, and shouting on command. If the film needs chaos, get me Rex Lynn. Because every time you see him, except for Man in Bed, anytime you see him in a Renny Harlin film, he's just insane. Like this one as well. Come and be some sort of Caribbean pirate. It's okay that you're really, really white. And the fact they're in Jamaica and there's one black guy in this entire thing is insane.
Well, there are a few bits. There's, like you say, there's the Jamaica thing and the fact that nearly everyone's white. And then the other thing is we're talking about a 17th century pirate ship with one woman on board. I'm like, oh my God, that is asking for... Especially a 17th century pirate ship with one woman on board who happens to look like Gina Davis. I'm like, she better be as badass as she sounds because there's going to be a lot of problems there. And we kind of tiptoed around the whole Gina Davis thing. It's interesting because I think both very much her, to a lesser extent, Matthew Modine as Shaw, but even him to a certain extent, I think they both grow into the role, or the movie figures out what to do with them. Because I think by the 3rd act, which is easily the best thing about this film by a country mile, I think they look a lot more comfortable in their boots of choice, so to speak. But this movie starts so awkwardly, and we kind of tiptoed also around the fact that this film had like massive rewrites, a really a notoriously troubled production. You can see all that on screen, and the way that this movie opens with Gina Davis in like a bizarre sexual kind of escapade with this guy, it feels like legitimately felt like I just walked into the movie halfway through. I was just like, this is no way to start a movie. It felt so jarring.
With Mr. Glassman outside, just shouting Morgan, I wanted him to shut the fuck up. Morgan!
I didn't even get what she was going for. And like you said, I put it down to like the direction, because the performance, I was like, I don't know what she's trying to portray in this scene. And it should be really clear because you are establishing the character to the watching audience. This is the opening sequence. You think of like the perfect example is like, I always think of James Bond in Casino Royale. It's like, we've got to sell Daniel Craig to you as Bond. And you have the opening sequence and you're just like, any doubts I had washed away. I get it. I know who this fucking guy is and I'm on board. I watch this. I'm like, Gina Davis is a pirate captain. How's that going to work? I'm like 10, 15 minutes into the movie. I'm still like, I don't get it. I don't know what a character is.
totally 100% agree with you. The other thing as well, right from that beginning, is like there's a price on your head. I know who you are. You're Morgan Adams or whatever your name was.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels really weird that there's always a price on her head alone when at the start of this film, she's the captain's daughter.
Yeah.
She's not even the captain. She's not the one who should be have the wanted
It should be
poster.
Black Harry, the father.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll get into the fucking the stupidity of the map. But I wanted to go. Yeah,
I mean, there's two things that really upset me in this film. One of them you've already said. I cannot believe you picked that as the opening quote. I audibly reacted to that. I forgot how much I hated that quote.
Yeah, yeah.
And the map, which she often keeps in her pants, what the fuck, is the grossest thing in movie history.
Yeah. But just before I wrote this down, and it really, really bothered me for some reason. Again, directing style. Well, not so much directing style. He's directing his soon-to-be wife or maybe wife, depending on when he filmed this part. But when she goes to meet Mordecai, her uncle, and they're all related by blood, yeah, they're three brothers. I'm assuming.
There's actually a fourth one. There's one called Richard, which is hardly mentioned. So, Big Dog, or his name is Dog Brown. Is it Dog Brown? Frank Langella's character.
Yep.
He killed Richard for the first part of the map, so that just adds an extra layer of complexity we don't.
So
need.
he never had the map. Then he never had his own version of a map.
Not,
I
guess
three
not.
There's only three pieces of the map.
But there were supposedly four brothers. So
okay,
he
I
didn't
missed
have a bit of the map. He's stolen Richard's bar of the map. He obviously goes to get Mordecai's in his very explosive bar. Everything, like you mentioned earlier, the fact that everything explodes in this film, that's never more true than in Mordecai's bar. After Mordecai dies and you're just like, am I supposed to care about this? Oh, it doesn't matter. Everything is exploding. Everything.
Yeah. But when she goes to see Mordecai, before she's let into the room, she is frisked by the one-eyed pirate.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many times he fucked up the scene just to grab her tits again.
I mean, right. And again, it comes back to the whole Gina Davis thing. The opening sequence of this film, she looks uncomfortable on screen and unconvincing. And then suddenly, 2 minutes later, you get like a few hero shots, like, oh, she looks great. And she's always had that. And I mean this in the best possible way. She comes across as a very handsome woman. Like, she's not, cute or anything like that. She's statuesque, she's tall. This sounds like a horrible thing to say, but she looks like she can take a punch. Like in this film, when she gets punched, I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you she could get into a scrap and hold her own. Like she could get punched and she'd get back up and she'd be scrappy, blah, blah, blah. When she gets dressed as a prostitute for that sequence, I'm like, God damn, man. Yeah, she is gorgeous. She is gorgeous. And I wouldn't blame him. But my opinion on Gina Davis in this film just kept wavering back and forth. And I think a lot of it is down to the direction from Renny Harlin.
The other thing you said as well was the fact that you thought by the third act, they kind of found their roles, Matthew Modine and Gina Davis. I think you started to see a glimpse of it and could be classed as one of the best scenes of the film, is the carriage chase.
Oh, in Jamaica,
is it Port Royal?
It's fantastic.
That carriage chase is great. But again, everything explodes.
Literally, again, everything explodes. I mean, you can't. Whatever you say about this film, you can see the money on screen. There's so many extras. Everything's always exploding, and it does for the most part. Despite the fact that I actually think the cinematography by it was initially, oh God, who was it? Because it was by two people. So it was initially by one cinematographer, and he broke his leg on set. And they had to bring in basically John Levy. I'm sure it's John Levy. No, Peter Levy. I do apologize. Oliver Wood was the initial cinematographer. He fell off a crane, broke his leg, and they brought in Peter Levy. And I thought, is he going to be one of these kind of classical kind of cinematographers? He's done like a lot of big epics because I think that's what the movie looks like. And I was like, I feel like there should be more color and it should be a bit more schlocky. And then I looked at his kind of IMDb, and he was a cinematographer on Predator 2 and Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Child. So he should have been comfortable with that kind of schlocky material. But again, I think it comes back to the fact that nobody really decided what kind of movie this was going to be. Is it going to be a serious pirate adventure, or is it going to be a quip-heavy kind of romp? They never decided, and then everything you see on screen often feels a little bit confusing because, like I said, as great as those sequences look, they looked a tad flat to me, at least.
No, I totally agree with you. Like they always have the build-up, but they didn't seem to have the payoff. There was always just, and they were always going from one scene to the other quite quickly. And it's funny you said about like the money as well, because going into facts a little bit, I mean, jokingly, yes, they probably spent half the budget on gunpowder,
Yeah.
and the other half of the budget, apparently, Gina Davis and Renny Harlin were into V8, which is like a mixed medley of 8 vegetable drink in
Yeah,
America.
like a health drink,
Yeah,
basically, like a
so
vegetable health drink
they had that shipped over to wherever they were filming, and when
in
they left,
Malta quite often.
apparently there was a room just full. I'll go into full facts about it, but
No,
just a
no,
room
no.
full
But
of
it just goes
V8s.
to show, and you can imagine the people at Carolco Pictures who were already financially fucked by time. Basically, they put all their eggs into the Cutthroat Island basket. They were like,
Yeah,
"Listen, we're going under. We need this to be a massive hit." And if Carolco Picture doesn't ring a bell, I totally understand because the name didn't ring a bell to me until you look at the image, the actual iconography of the company, and you're like, "Oh, I've seen that a million times." If you're listening to this podcast, you've seen that a million times. You know, they worked on like the Rambo follow-ups. Follow-ups, sequels, Total Recall, Red Heat, Universal Soldier, many, many more kind of thing.
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2, yeah, they're involved in that as well. But basically, they were going to make one of Schwarzenegger's most infamously unmade projects, Crusade. But instead, they'd already put 13 million into that project. But went, listen, we're canceling the Schwarzenegger film. You can see why they probably went out of business, and we'll put it into this massive Gina Davis project. So they put all their eggs into this basket. The movie was a flop. Carolco Pictures disappeared very, very quickly after that.
To be honest with you, I agree, like nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at their last 5 films, okay, they were going downhill. Minus one.
Yeah.
Minus one. So 94 Wagons East.
Yeah, that's a great start.
Yeah, 94 again, Stargate. Okay, we're on the rise. That's what I mean. We're on the rise, people. 95, Last of the Dogmen, as like some sort of Tom Berenger film, not a clue.
Nope.
You know, 95, September the 22nd, 95, and December the 22nd, 95. Obviously, we know December was Cutthroat Island, but the film just before, Showgirls.
Oh, such a tough break.
Yes.
And this is the company where all this is going on. They're just like, let's not make this Schwarzenegger flick Crusade. Let's go and make the pirate film with Gina Davis and Matthew Modine instead. And if you ever wonder when you're watching this film, you're like, Matthew Modine, that's a weird choice. Well, yeah, it wasn't their first choice, put it that way. We'll get to that later on. But needless to say, there are a lot of names kind of put about before they got to Modine, who was, also, I think, about 17th on the list.
Did they look at Modine and thought, you know what, we need him to be fucking Carrie Alwes from The Princess Bride?
That's one of my top notes.
Every time you see him quickly, like with the weird like blonde mustache as well. So fuck me, it's I forget Carrie Alwes is Dread Pirate Roberts, but I forget his real. Was it Wesley?
Wesley, yeah.
I just thought, Jesus Christ, they just picked Wesley straight out of that film and popped him in here. Like,
well, yeah, that was one of my big things with this film. I was watching it and I just kept thinking, how much better would this be with Carrie Alwes in the role? Sure, because Carrie, when you think of Carrie Alwes, you immediately, because of when you think about this role, you immediately think of the Death Pirate Roberts, you think of the Princess Bride, but then you also have to think how much better, like Princess Bride is, and we mentioned this when we did the podcast, it's one of very few examples of what I think might be a perfect movie in terms of, if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. Although if it wasn't your cup of tea, I'd question your taste in movies, where I'm just like, back to front, it's perfect. We mentioned we don't know why it works. It shouldn't work, The Princess Bride, with like the tone and like the romance clashing up against the fantasy and like the framing device with what's his name? Not Rob Savage, that's the footballer. Fred Savage. Thank you very much. All that stuff should clash. It doesn't. The script is fantastic. It's perfectly cast. So would he necessarily still have been brilliant if he was dropped into this mess of a movie by comparison? I don't know, but
no, but I would still buy him as that roguish con man at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And his turn straight away to, or not straight away, sorry, because he's still screwing him over as much as he can get. But then his turn to be like, oh, you know what? I've fallen for this pirate woman, and now, like, I could see that turn.
Yeah, maybe he would have had a bit more chemistry with Gina Davis, because their chemistry in this film is non-existent.
And maybe Gina Davis was actually called the Dread Pirate Roberts, I want to say.
Who knows? Who knows? And it's, again, we could crap on Matthew Modine, but it's like he's terrible in this film. It's just like everything else. It just doesn't quite come together. And as I said, it does improve.
They're just serviceable.
Yeah, exactly. And it does improve for the third act. And as I mentioned earlier, the third act is easily the best part of the film. But by then, you're already probably kind of. It's very hard to sell a movie where you're just like, oh, okay, for like an hour and a half, it's pretty ropey, but the last 30 minutes are fucking dope. It's like, it's too little, too late by then. And that was the problem with The Lone Ranger, if we want to bring it back to that. The Lone Ranger is a movie we both got a bit of a soft spot for.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually become The Lone Ranger until like the last 20 minutes. And you're like, well, where's this been for the rest of the fucking film? And it's kind of like that, where suddenly everything feels like it clicks, but it kind of muddles its way through for an hour and a half.
I will say though, as we're talking about the actors, Frank Langella is having the time of his life again as a villain. You know,
Yeah.
he's bringing the same "I'm going to act like this is a Shakespeare, even if the script is written on a napkin" energy that he brought to Skeletor, in Masters of the Universe. You know, he's
great.
in a film.
And by the way, he is great. He is unequivocally fantastic in that film.
Yeah, he's in a film he probably has no business being this good in, but he's committing so hard he becomes one of the best things about it. And his sword should be pointless.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, do you know? Oh no, actually, I'm going to leave that for Rob take. I'm not going to go too far.
Fair enough. And
I think he's great in it. And he looks the part. Although I do think he needed to be a bit more. And this is coming from me. I don't know, maybe a bit more definition in his arms. Because if he's wearing sleeveless all the time, he just looks like my dad. My dad in a vest.
Oh, right, and maybe I gave him the benefit of the doubt, because when I think of Frank Langella, I don't think of the show. I think of him as an old man now. So in this, because he's got the tan and everything, I'm like, God, he looks so vibrant. He just looks healthy and comparatively very young. Like, he's not in great shape, which I think is fine for a pilot. I just wish aesthetically they'd maybe push the boat out a bit more, because when you think about, and we're not going to get carried away with the whole comparisons between this and Pirates of the Caribbean and why that worked and why this didn't. But you think of like Jeffrey Rush's Barbossa. It wasn't just the fact that he swung for the fences with his performance; his aesthetic immediately sold you. Like, if you before you even spoke, if you just saw him on the deck of the ship, you'd be like, oh, he's the captain, he's the lead, he's the badass. If you didn't know that was Frank Langella and he hadn't spoken and he was just standing on the deck, he could just be character number 6. I just feel like he needed aesthetically a bit more to make him stand out. And again, it comes back to one of the fundamental issues with this problem. It's perfectly well shot. You can see the scale, you can see the money on screen. It just feels like, while the dialogue kind of inches towards the realm of the B movie and the absurd on occasion, aesthetically it never gets there, and everything just feels a little bit boring. I just feel like everything needed to be turned up 1 or 2 notches. There's definitely from an aesthetic perspective.
I think we needed more of him as well, of Frank Langella.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because there was no build-up to the weird turn of the British Army or the British Navy all of a sudden joining forces. Like, again, sorry to do it because you've already done it, but in Pirates of the Caribbean, you get the Commodore, you get Keira Knightley's dad, like that whole British Navy thing, and they kind of build up on him. But in this, you don't get much of him. And all of a sudden, this guy's going, oh, by the way, I've teamed up with the pirate now. I'm going to give him pardon and we're going to take out his treasure. Where the fuck did that come from?
It all drops out of the sky. Like, everything to do with Patrick Malahite's character as Ainsley. It's like, again, his performance isn't particularly bad. He just doesn't get enough to work with. And then all of a sudden, he disappears for ages. And then all of a sudden, there's a mutiny. You realize Langella is working with Ainsley, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck happened? And there's nothing to back it up. It just happens. And
Trotter's hero turn felt stupid.
Another perfect example,
because Trotter is getting berated by Ainsley, so his hero turn should be him shooting Ainsley. Not him shooting some random to save Mr. Blair, who they've had no connection with throughout the film.
Well, it all comes back to fundamentally the script issues, and you can feel the rewrites. But this goes right back to the start of the film. So, I mentioned the opening sequence with Gina Davis, but then the next thing you know, she's going to see her father, the death of Black Harry, who's being he's being murdered by his brother, Frank Langella's character. And she's holding him in his arms. And I was just sitting there watching it going like, am I supposed to care about this? Because I'm like, I don't know where any of these people are. It's all just being thrown at me in the first couple of seconds of the movie. And then before I can even think about whether I have any kind of emotional attachment, I realize that it's a scalp map. It's a scalp map. Yeah. She had to scalp her own fucking father you're like, oh, but she probably cleans it up. It's not going to be that gross. No, it's gross as fuck.
Yeah.
I found every single time they put that map up on screen, I was like, oh man, that is just goddamn pleasant. It's a dad scalp, and she legitimately keeps it in her pants.
I audibly groaned when at the beginning, and Frank Langella, Dog Brown, turns around and goes, "I want the map. Where is it?" And he goes, "It's hidden. It's up here." And I audibly groaned when it's, "Oh, fuck off with the pun, will you?" And then you get there, and she dives in after him. She rescues him, and he says, "Shave my head." And like you said, you got a gross map, but I want to know how he had that tattooed on his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did he get that tattooed so perfectly that when it's laid out, it matches correctly with Dog Brown's cloth map that he apparently stole and Mordecai's eel barrel map? Again, which, if it was part of the eel barrel, how did that get snapped off perfectly? That it all fit.
It doesn't make any sense, sadly. No. And a lot of this movie doesn't make sense, but it's all to do with those like first impressions. Like, you know, you're not giving your character much of a chance if the first impressions are terrible. And it's like, you think of Shaw's first impression, where he's like wooing those ladies. And I always feel bad for that one lady, the one he's wooing, where it's like,
you know, she's a bit homely.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like the casting couch where they're just like, we're looking for somebody who looks quite homely, and it's like, oh no, you're too good looking. Oh no, you'll be just fine.
Do you know what it says? The thing, the casting note probably came out going, "We're looking for somebody where her friends say she has a good personality." That's what they're looking for.
One of those. But yeah, you have that whole sequence. He apparently woos a couple of women. I don't know why it couldn't have been a beautiful woman, because that would suggest he has like that level of charm that he can kind of come in into high society and woo all these gorgeous women and take their stuff. But, you know, it's a homely woman. I don't see the point of that. And then you have this escape sequence when he kind of very confidently jumps off the side of a banister just down onto steps, and he gets caught immediately. I'm just like, was that supposed to be funny? Again, it doesn't land. So you're just like, I don't really know who this character is supposed to be. And as I said, you know, you kind of get there by the end, but for the most part, he's delivering terrible lines that, you know, the aforementioned horrendous innuendo. Like, one of his lines is, "You're a very beautiful woman. I'd like to wash your feet." I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Is that supposed to be funny? Because it comes across as creepy, and I'm sure you don't want Shaw to come across as creepy, but that's how it comes across. And I just don't think he ever truly recovers from that intro. And some like a perfect example is the scene you mentioned earlier, where you're in Port Royal in Jamaica, fantastic set piece, great stunt work, and the last line you hear is him saying, "Oh, I'm sure they'll remember you here." I'm just like, wait, that's it? Like, you want the that's terrible writing.
There was no build up of like, nobody knows who I am. Like, there was nothing of that. So that line just seemed out of place.
And sorry, it's the line specifically is, "You certainly left your mark on the island."
Oh, sorry, okay.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's just a bullshit line. And sorry, I just have to ask, while we're on the subject of Matthew Modine in Jamaica and Port Royal, why did that one guy want to buy him so much?
Only because he insulted him. Literally. Like,
that was it, yeah.
That one guy wanted to spend as much money as he could to own a slave. And look, I know how ridiculous it sounds, like saying own a slave, but to fucking, I don't know, beat the shit out of him. Like, halfway through, I thought it went from, okay, he wants to, like, he wants to fuck Matthew Modine. I thought
it might have got homoerotic, because they mentioned at one point that he's willing to pay £40. Now, I didn't know this was a thing, but I was like, because £40 sounded like a lot for this film set in 1668. So I was like, you know, kind of mid to late 17th century. Yeah. There is a currency calculator which you can put in based on the year, and you can do it down to shillings and everything. So £40 in 1668 would have been £4,207. So it was a fairer whack. I mean, Matthew Modine's...
Sorry, I just whistled and just realised whistling
doesn't come through. Yeah,
so take on effect that I agreed that was a lot of money. Like, oh,
yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, at first I was just like, oh, it's because he just disrespected him. Then I thought it became like this homoerotic thing, and but then I realised, for the most part, it's just to add a bit of spice clumsily to a sequence which didn't really need it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. What I will say as well, I mean, as much as we could talk about the story and the acting and everything, I think you'll agree with me, well, I'm hoping you will, that it looked beautiful. Cutthroat Island looked stunning. I think it looked great. Yeah. The ships, you know, the sets, I think they looked absolutely fantastic. That final battle at the end really felt like two ships going to fucking war.
I
Um,
genuinely think, and we'll get into it in more detail in a moment, but I thought the ship battle at the end was legitimately and unequivocally fantastic.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
no, I was just like, that is wonderfully shot, and that is one of the things about this film because it's all it feels tactile, it feels real, it feels lived in, and the explosion in particular is like top level, like one of the best explosions I've seen on the screen. And nowadays, if they did that, of course it would be in CG. It doesn't matter how good the CG is, you can always fucking tell. When that ship exploded and they dive off it, I was like, that was unbelievable. That looks
It's
so good.
It's not so much. It's feeling the splinters as well. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
when they're cutting the guide ropes or the grappling ropes, and
Mm-hmm.
you could feel the axe just digging into the set, into the wood
Yeah,
and
yeah.
split. Like it's absolutely fantastic. I wrote down it's a world that feels alive, dangerous, and constantly exploding. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just I'm going back to that because everything explodes. Like they named this wrong. Like
Yeah, it should be Exploding Island or Exploding
yeah,
Pirates or something along those lines. Yeah.
but I think it looked great. And when they got to uh I was going to say Skeletal Island. It's the name of the film. When they got to Cutthroat Island,
Yeah.
I don't know where I got skeletal from, but there we go. When they got to Cutthroat Island,
That's an odd one. Yeah.
yeah, but and I like they even though they got the map, they just happened upon it, which
Yeah.
is
Sorry,
just
sorry.
funny to me
Wait,
as well.
sorry. Did you say Skeleto Island?
Skeletal, as in skeletal.
Oh, I thought you said
I
skinny.
don't know
I
what.
thought maybe, like, because we usually do a bit where you kind of, we read up what this is called in different
Yeah,
countries. And I can just imagine in Spain that this might be called Squelito Island or something like that.
yeah,
But
no,
yeah, sorry, my
and
bad,
I'm
my
saying
bad.
it wrong. So skeletal, skeletal. I don't even know how we would
It
pronounce
would
it.
be Skeletal Island, I
Skeletal,
suppose.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I went skeletal. I made a choice and I stuck with it, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. You
Yeah,
totally fucked it.
but
It's fine.
they just like my happenstance as well. They just fell upon the island,
Well,
which
that
was
was the
quite
thing, right?
funny.
I have to, because that sequence when you have like the big storm and stuff, and that was another great sequence where it really benefits from the score, which is one of the few things I think was like universally appreciated for this film.
Yeah,
John Debney's score, he's most famous from doing being the composer on Sin City, Spider-Man 2, Predators, and that's Predators, by the way, and Iron Man 2, and a whole bunch of others. The score is fantastic, and you have that sequence. Again, practical effects. It's in the storm. You can see the use of miniatures on occasion, but for the most part, it looks fantastic. But when they kind of got double crossed by what's his name, Tom Skull, or whatever his name is, it's not Tom Skull, is it? It's something along those lines.
oh,
Tom
you mean the
Scully,
guy? You mean the guy who we knew was going to fuck him over?
of
Like, I want to
course.
be captain.
You know he's going to fuck her over straight away. So
Yeah,
they fuck her over, and of course, because it's one of those like PG-ish movies, nobody ever really kills anyone. They have all these opportunities. Like he could have just killed them all then, but they're like, oh no, we'll set you off on these boats where you might find the treasure. And I was thinking, it was like, was the storm, which seemed to have come out of nowhere, was it like a magical storm? Like you think about something like Pirates of the Caribbean, it'd be a storm to keep you away from the island. Because once they survive the storm, the island is very clearly there and very easily
yeah, yeah.
navigated to. And I was just like, I couldn't tell if they're going for something kind of magical and mystical there, but I don't think they were. I think it was
No,
just, again, I think it was just by chance.
and I don't even think it was that hidden. Like the island's there,
No.
and at some point somebody's going to find the cave, even if it's hanging off the side of a.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to, but at some point somebody's finding it. It's like it's not hidden. Really, like I
No,
mean, well,
it's
at
not
least
particularly hidden.
One Eyed Willie set some traps for you. You know what I mean? I mean this.
Well, and again, we will get to. So they get to Cutthroat Island, and when they get there and they're searching for the gold initially, and they've got the three parts of the map, or two of the parts of the map actually. It suddenly goes very Razor Lost Ark. Both the
Yeah,
score and the aesthetic, the way they shoot it, it reminds me so much of that opening sequence from Razor Lost Ark when they're traveling through the jungle. I was like, again, another examples where you're just like, this just looks good. It sounds good.
yeah,
It looks good. Then they magically, despite the fact that the ship crashed up against the rocks and they've just kind of landed, obviously they've just managed to survive. They've got rope to go down to the cave when they realize
yeah,
it's in the cave. I don't know where they got the rope from. Fair enough. We'll let that go. When they go into the cave, it suddenly shifts tone and feels like the Goonies. And
yeah.
it feels like it's shot again. The score changes, the aesthetic changes. And when you have Shaw and Captain Morgan in the cave, I'm like, well, this just feels like the Goonies. The problem is, it doesn't have any of the charm. And you notice that more than ever when they reach the treasure. Is it me or is it the most underwhelming treasure you've ever seen in
Yes,
the movie?
yes, it is. Do you know, it made me think of. Do you remember the Count of Monte Cristo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the Jim Caviezel version, right?
yeah.
When he finds the treasure, which is hidden fantastically, by the way,
Mhm.
because it's not only in a cave. It's not like in a hidden island. It's on an island,
Mhm.
but it's in a cave, underwater, and you've got to swim through into an underwater cave.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
all at the bottom when he opens it, and it's all just glistening, and the water's blue, and it looks lovely.
Or you think of the Goonies when it's like,
Yeah,
oh, it's on
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
pirate ship in a
And
cave, they've been buried, and it's just like it looks amazing.
you see this weird mound of treasure that they've just put in a random cave. It just felt so underwhelming.
It didn't look like much because it was
No,
half underwater. I was like, is it half underwater or is it just like not that much treasure?
speaking of the treasure as well,
Mhm.
I know it's the treasure from a sunken Spanish galleon,
Yeah.
but who hid the treasure? Did the three brothers hide the treasure? Or the four brothers?
I don't know. Why were there so
Because
many skeletons on it?
if they hid the treasure and then
Mhm.
they made a map, at some point we'll all go back for it. We'll
Mhm.
split into three parts.
They should know where it is.
They should know where it is. Dogs shouldn't be fighting for it. And the other thing is, this has always got me about pirates. Why are you hiding your treasure? Why are you going out getting treasure and then hiding it?
Taxes, taxman. That's why.
Taxes,
That's
taxes.
where the British come in, I suppose. Is you've got to hide it somewhere. It's kind of like a dog burying its bone, but that seems to be a very pirate thing, doesn't it? That we've got to get the treasure, and then we have to bury the treasure somewhere. All I can think is that they were told about where this treasure is. Someone provided a map, so they had a map. They're like, well, we can't have a completed map, so we'll copy the map and we'll split it up into three parts and destroy the original. Perhaps that's
I
all I
still
can think.
think he had to have the full map. Uh, Black
They must have
Henry,
had it
whatever
at
his
some
name was.
point. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he had to have the full map to have it tattooed on his head perfectly so it matches up with the other two.
Yeah, but he's still only got a part of the map which he's got
That's what I
tattooed
mean.
on his head. Yeah.
But he had to have the other two put next to
Yeah,
his head
no.
while they tattooed it.
And then they've destroyed it afterwards. But anyway, like you said, once they get Cutthroat Island, it looks fantastic, and the fact that they have the real ships, I think it's a bit of a shame that Langella's boat, the Reaper, I think it's called.
The Reaper.
Again, that whole thing about like ratcheting up the aesthetic. You think about again, I'm going back to Pirates of the Caribbean. Think of the Black Pearl and that aesthetic, which makes it stand out from other ships. Like Langella himself, I'm just like, if I didn't know that was the quote unquote bad guy ship, it's just a ship, and I know
Yeah.
that might be historically accurate, but this isn't that kind of movie, or is it? Because it feels like half of this movie is like, oh, we should be historically accurate, and then the second half is nonsense.
What
and
you
it
want?
never quite meets in the middle.
You want skeletons like on
Yeah,
the
I want,
side of the ship.
no,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
I totally want skeletons. I want like when they get to the treasure, there is skeletons on the treasure. There are skulls. That doesn't make any sense. But
No.
it's pirate treasure. Give me some fucking skeletons on that bitch. I just wish the boat had more skeletons and a bit more black about it. It's got a cool name, the Reaper, and I love Frank Geller's performance. I just wish aesthetically there was a bit more going on there, sadly.
I had to ask, speaking of Frank Langella, and I know we've gone straight to the end, and I wish Mythbusters was still around to prove this. But if you're shot that close with a cannonball,
Mm-hmm.
would it send you through room after room after room like a Looney Tunes thing, or would it just tear you in half?
It would just tear you in half. Of course it would. But
Yeah.
it's a funny, silly film, and they're going,
Yeah,
like, it's actually reminded me a bit of the end of True Lies when he gets shot with the.
But it may be it just turned into a Looney Tunes thing because he went through it. It reminded me of a John Cena sketch when John Cena did a Karate Kid sketch, probably for SNL or something like that. And he punched a guy through wall after wall after wall.
Yeah, it does have that vibe, but you have like all these instances. So when they take the boat back from Tom, like firstly, Tom Scully has the chance to kill Captain Morgan and the crew. He doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Then when they take the boat back from Tom Scully, they have the opportunity to kill them, but they don't. But they do actually throw them off the ship without a boat. So I'm just like, okay, that is actually probably a pretty horrendous way to die. But because this movie it's got a weird vibe, it's all quite quaint. It's like the quicksand sequence earlier in the film where they're all whispering for some reason. And you're just like, why are they whispering? And they get him out, and it's all, again, their relationship is a little bit too quaint. So there's no threat involved. There's no real sense of romance. Things just happen. And you think of, like, when Morgan takes the map from Langella's character, when she sneaks into the camp and takes it from around his neck. Like, why didn't you just kill him? You could just kill him. She doesn't kill him. Later on, Frank Langella, and clearly a nod to Empire Strikes Back when they're fighting on top of the ship. And she's leaning back and just like, dude, I don't want to go all Scott evil on you, but kill her. Instead, she drops down. Obviously, she's going to survive. There's just so many examples of that where people are just doing dumb things so that the plot can keep kind of inching along, sadly.
I love that as well. Classic hero moment. They're having their fight and everybody's just watching them. Not willing to help, not trying to do anything.
No, just watch.
Because you've already proven you all have these mass amount of guns, not just
Mhm.
muskets or anything. Because one of them, I think it was again Mr. Glasspool, who, by the way, do you recognize Mr. Glasspool?
Yes, I
Sancho,
do. Yeah. He's
uh,
been in quite a few movies.
detective. The one I know him from is the detective from Monster Squad, where he just stays in the car and gets
100%.
blown up.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, fucking yeah. Sorry.
He's a classic one of those guys. Like he's been in a
Thinking
whole
of,
bunch of movies in minor
thinking
roles.
of Monster Squad, obviously Frankenstein, Tom Noonan.
Oh yeah,
That's
he
the guy.
passed away
Yeah.
recently. Yeah, that was
Uh,
really sad.
but I think Mr. Glasspool, or it was Mr. Blair, which whatever one, I'm not too sure, doing what looked like a 20-shot musket. That thing was insane. But I think that's a real thing. It's like a real gun.
That's
Like,
pretty cool.
yeah, and Mr. Blair already had the sniper rifle gun because he saved. Again, why is he shooting the guy about to hang Shaw when he has no loyalty towards Shaw? So why is he saving Shaw?
Yeah. Oh, because he knows he's doing it for Morgan, I think, in that instance.
Okay.
Because Morgan wants to save him, but you see, like, and again, it doesn't convey this very well, but she like looks over because she's like, if I shoot him, it's going to give away our position and it's going to get the whole crew in trouble. So he takes the decision out of her hands. So I think it's actually one of those moments which is supposed to convey that God, excuse me, that the crew is all totally with her and they want to save Shaw and all that, and be down with the consequences, which is kind of cool. But it just doesn't convey that information very well. It's just like, wait, why is he shooting him? Because I had to stop. I was like, wait, why did he shoot? I was like, I
Yeah.
think that's what they were going for at least.
Oh, by the way, Scully, played by Jimmy F. Skaggs, we've seen him on the podcast before.
Oh, really? What was that?
Randomly, one of the drug dealers in the Christmas tree yard from Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yeah. That is a deep
Yeah,
cut. That is a
yeah,
deep cut from the opening sequence. Yeah,
yeah.
where he's pretending to buy drugs.
500? Dude, 5,000. Oh, shit, that's a bit above my
Yeah,
pay grade.
that's again perfect example of how you introduce a character. You don't know anything about Riggs at that moment. Like he's a live wire, all these other things. It's a fantastic cold opening for a character,
Yeah.
and it's just what like they never pull off in this film, sadly, and they never get over it. And right, I was going to say this for hot takes, but Rob take is very much your thing. You know the bit when they're going down, they're swinging down to get the treasure. Yeah, this is when it's Shaw and Morgan.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Langella shows up, and you've got the issue now. It's like he throws Morgan off the cliff. He's hanging on to her. What do you do? Do you save the treasure? Do you save the girl? Whatever. He then looks down. There are clearly nothing but rocks, and they just go, all right, let's just go for it. Honestly, it reminded me of that sequence from the other guys, with The Rock and Samuel Jackson, where it's like,
Well,
you
aim
think
for the
what I'm
bushes.
thinking? Aim for the bushes, and then they just jump off and they just hit the ground and die. Dude, that is exactly what happens in this film. The only difference is they cut away. When they're falling down, you're just like, there's nothing but rocks down there. And then they cut away. He's got a little bit of blood. She wakes up and they're fine. I'm like, dude, they're both dead. They're both
They don't
fucking
cut away.
dead.
They have that terrible CGI. I'm sure it's the same one.
Oh, so
they
a
have that
wave
terrible
comes over.
CGI moment where the wave catches them.
It's one of the few moments in the film which doesn't look great, admittedly.
Like the fucking she's Moana all of a sudden that can control the water. It's the wave just.
It's so dumb.
It is
And
awful,
in a movie where the set pieces are generally speaking really good, that whole sequence was so ill conceived. I just when they were dropping down, I was just like, wait, what is how I thought someone was going to swoop down and save them. I'm like, no, they're just going to land on the rocks, and that's exactly what happened. Wave or not, that wave would not save you from that death.
They get washed ashore separately.
Yeah, of course.
She manages to, I don't know, arrive literally to see. William Shaw has to get rescued by Maury Chaykin and John Reed, and then brought back. But she manages to wash, I guess, a couple of more miles down and see all this happening. Speaking of,
and then you forget, and then you have one of those moments when you're like, oh, I totally forgot about Reed and his fucking pigeon whispering shit as well.
That's what I was
totally
to say.
Forgot about that.
What happened to him? So he fucked him over because he was afraid he was going to get screwed over by Ainsley.
Yeah, and he has that one amazing moment where he's basically telling, like, he sends off a pigeon, and the score, for lack of a better term, erupts. The score goes through the roof. I'm like, we're really doing this for a pigeon release? All right, fair enough. Let's do it.
But he's on the Reaper. He's on the Reaper with them. Where does he go?
I had no idea. He doesn't have an arc. He's just like basically they've written themselves into a corner and they're just like, oh, we need a way to get the Brits here and to get, the Langella thing and to make it all work. So they add him in afterwards as this kind of double crossing agent, whatever you want to call him, who's kind of going to get everyone into the right place at the right time. But yeah, his when he showed up on the beach after, it was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that dude. I totally forgot about him.
It was just random as hell.
Just a non-event of a character, sadly.
Yeah.
What can you do, though?
Trying to think of anything else to say.
Well, I wanted to mention, we've kind of tiptoed around the end of this film, but I did really want to stress just how good it was. Like some of the stuff where they have like the one-on-one fight, I don't actually mind that. I know everyone just stands and watches, but it's captain versus captain. It's, there's a bit of history to that, isn't there? Like you have your two greatest fighters and everyone just kind of watches.
Yeah, but you don't need to keep going up, do you? Stop going
No, you
up.
don't. And, they have like the classic secondary fight, the side bitch fight between Glasspool and Chain Dude, where you're just like, all right.
Dude, the most pointless fucking guy. Every time he swung that chain, he's wrapping it around something he shouldn't be.
Yeah, absolutely. But, and again, you think there are a lot of movies where the secondary characters have this fight alongside the main characters, but in this film, they haven't had enough screen time. So you're watching them fight, and I'm just like, I just don't care. But those fights aside, and they're fine, the actual naval battle between the two ships, just to stress again, just how good it is. It is, I'd put that up against almost anything in the genre. It's unbelievably good. And the fact that it's all physical and you have all these extras and the explosion of the ship is legit. It's just a great way to end. And otherwise, let's be like, this film's never bad. It's just underwhelming. It's just underwhelming for the vast majority.
It feels so realistic as well. Like everything, like he calls the quartermaster to actually start prepping the guns. So pouring the powder in, keeping your head down, just getting as close. Because the only way, cannons were never on the front. You don't have automatic turrets or anything. You've got to go side by side to fire your cannons. So naval battles were always, back then, I'm guessing, were always quite slow. Wait until you get side by side. And then it just fucking ramps up. And they're shooting each other, that as soon as the first cannon hits, you think it should be sinking. But fuck me, they were made out of stronger stuff then, because they're just getting hit and hit and hit. And then as they're getting closer and closer, you get the grappling hooks and you fucking pull them towards you. And then you have the boarding parties. And I honestly thought it was so good.
Yeah, I just think I feel like there could have been maybe a bit more of a tactical build-up, and what naval battles provide, as you say, it's a slower pace, and then it suddenly erupts when you're next to each other. Yeah. It's something they wanted to portray in Star Trek, for instance, especially the earlier films, with this idea that even though the spaceships, they do it with the names and everything else, but the aesthetic, like. When it was done most successfully is arguably another film we've done on this podcast, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and it becomes this quiet cat and mouse game. Like a lot of it is just great music, slow build up, and just keep cutting back to the captains, and it's just this tactical kind of battle behind the scenes, and then suddenly it erupts at the end. You get a bit of that here when it does erupt and it turns into a battle. It's fantastic. I would have liked a bit more build up, but that is a small issue with what is an otherwise fantastic finale to this film. I mean, my big issue with the finale of this film, we didn't mention it earlier, is when Langella comes down to finally put an end to Morgan. I got to be honest, I totally forgot about the cannonball thing. And I know it's ridiculous when he gets blown through the wall and everything, but I'm like, it's kind of fun. The line she says, "bad dog," is one of my least favorite lines in movie history. It's because I was, by this point, I'm so invested in the film. I'm like, I fucking love the third act of this film. And then as soon as she said "bad dog," I was like, oh no, fuck you, Gina. Not fuck you, Gina Davis. It's not her fault. No one can deliver that line with confidence. We'll put it down to Renny Harlin and the script writing team.
Yeah, that was on the day, wasn't it? Oh, I got perfect line for this. Say bad dog. Do I have to say bad dog?
You have to say we're paying you a lot of money.
She tried to get out of it, didn't she? She tried, like, it's her husband. She's like, I don't want to do this fucking film. And he's like, no, you're contracted, love. You've got to do it. Like, you contracted.
It's unbelievable. But I know the treasure looks shit earlier. The treasure actually looks a lot more substantial when it's on the ship. I don't quite get how the barrel thing works. Like, does it? No,
I wanted because like she had to do the rope long enough for it to hit because that would pull the barrel down. I'm sorry, that the way that treasure compared to the barrel, it'd pull it down. So she has to a magic rope size again. It's perfect size to do that. But also,
and how far down would it go?
Like, that's what I'm asking because I questioned You don't have divers down there then. So is
Mhm.
that rope that they've tied to the barrel strong enough to hook another rope to and pull all that treasure up?
See, this is the same issue again. Last week with Waterworld, we had the issue with magic rope, which was the perfect length. We're having the same issue again. We
Yeah.
had another issue with islands, which are supposed to be really hard to find, but are actually super easy to find. And you just keep, maybe it'll kind of run into next week in the third part of our season of Box Office Bomb podcast. But yeah, I don't think anything about the whole treasure sequence makes sense. I'm glad it all worked out for him. But again, I don't think it's particularly fantastic.
If you're picking what I think you're picking, then no, I don't think there's any magic rope.
No, okay, fair enough.
When
Fair
I'm thinking
enough.
about box office bombs and what we've talked about in the past, I think I've got an inkling of what we're going next week, but
Yeah, we have
we'll
talked
save
about
that.
it. But yeah, in fairness, I haven't seen that movie. Anyway, we'll get to it in a minute. Should we move on to Rob's take?
Yeah.
Of which there could be many, to say the
Oh,
least.
yeah, I get it. There could be many. Did I have that? Where did I put that? Oh, it's more that it's stuck to my craw more than anything else, right? But Frank Langella being left-handed,
Mhm.
I didn't like the sword fight. Left-handed sword fight against the right-handed sword fight. It's just all on one side. You're just fighting
Yeah, I
on
know what
one
you
side.
mean.
It
It's
was
like
weird and horrible.
boxing a southpaw. It ends up being quite awkward. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was quite. I didn't even notice that, but now you
It
mention it, I
was
was
just
like, yeah, it's just
clunky
on
and
the wrong
horrible.
side.
And he's got this massive sword that he can't wield with one hand. So he's trying to wield it with one hand. Then he's got to do two-handed ones.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed, yeah,
The
it really
choreography,
stuck to me.
you have like a few Errol Flynn moments with Shaw but basically all they do is have him swing to places or
Yeah.
go on on the lines or whatever. But there isn't really a kind of like a kind of classical sword fight in this film. You have like a few moments, but there isn't anything that particularly stands out. And you always think of like the great pirate movies, they always have that moment, the great kind of, sword battle at the end. And in this, they almost tried to make, you ask the questions like, why do they keep going up? I think it's because they knew the choreography wasn't great, or maybe Gina Davis and Frank Langella both weren't fantastic, or simply he was left-handed, so you lose that classic silhouette of a sword fight. So just like the sword fighting's kind of shit, so we'll just keep moving it up the ship, so
Yeah.
at least it feels dramatic, perhaps. But no, it's a good
And
point.
the other Rob take, I really wish they would have uh, the art, not the art department, the clothing department,
Mhm.
maybe dress Shaw a bit differently at the end.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
whenever they showed a wide shot of him, I didn't know whether it was Shaw or whether it was the older brother from Malcolm in the Middle.
I
Same
really did. And
hairstyle.
by the way, I really didn't like him in this film.
No,
I
same
just thought he stood out like a sore thumb. Christopher Masterson.
Masterson, yeah. Same
Yeah.
hairstyle, same clothing. So
Mhm.
the same body type, really. So every time it was a long shot, I don't know, is that fucking Shaw or is that Malcolm's brother?
Yeah,
I
that was sorry.
really didn't know.
Just to add to that, the Christopher Masterton's character, he plays Bo in this film, is another one of those characters where you have to feel that either the script or a lot of the shots were just left on the cutting room floor because every so often they have these little hints that you're supposed to care about his character, but they provided nothing
Or
for you to give a
again,
shit about him. Nothing.
and a perfect example of that is his possibly cowardness halfway through,
Yeah, oh,
where
it's kind of
it's
cowardice.
show
Yeah,
yeah, it's showing his face like he's always hiding, and then he mans up and stabs
yeah.
right hand chain man in the
Hmm.
back, but then he gets hit. And it should have been like a heroic moment for him. He stepped up.
False
But
flat though.
whatever that thank you, yes, because whatever that build up is like as you said, probably on the cutting room floor. And I think there's miles and miles and miles of that stuff on the cutting room floor because I think
Mhm.
another part of the expense, they had three cameras shooting
Oh yeah,
film
that was one of the
every
reasons it
time.
was so expensive. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a 3 hour cut of this movie, or at least a theoretical
I
one.
do
In the end,
not
it's like
need a Ulysses cut of this film, by the way. I don't need
no,
it.
it's one of those films that is simultaneously, and you get this every so often. It sounds like it doesn't necessarily make any sense, but it's both too long and too short.
Yeah,
It's like I don't need any more of this, but at the same time, for it to actually make sense, Waterworld's a perfect example of that. Like the Ulysses cut, we said the same thing last week. The Ulysses cut is 45 minutes longer, and thematically and in terms of character motivations, it makes it a better movie. But at the same time, watching the theatrical cut after 2 hours and 15 minutes, I don't need another 45 minutes of it. I just
no.
don't. Even if it does theoretically make the movie better, you're just like, I don't need 3 hours of fucking Waterworld. And I do not, even if, like you said, all those character motivations, those moments which we mentioned here fall flat. Maybe they wouldn't if the movie had been given a bit more time to breathe. Neither of us want to sit through a 3 hour Ulysses cut of this film
No,
at
I'm
all.
good. I'm
No,
good.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Favorite scene? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, I know we've mentioned a lot about the ending,
Mhm.
scene. But I have to go with sorry, I'm just trying to find this. I'm stalling for time. There it is. The carriage chase through Port Royal.
Yeah.
It's a moment the film goes, "Oh, you thought we were easing you in? Not at all." You get explosions everywhere again. The horses sprinting like they're late for work. Gina Davis swinging from rooftops. Matthew Modine dual wielding pistols like he's auditioning for John Wick 1660.
Mhm.
It's chaotic, it's loud, and it's excessive, but it's the closest the movie gets to justifying its budget.
Yeah.
And I
Was
think,
yeah, without question.
yeah, and I just think it starts to bring you into something this movie can be, and then
Mhm.
ultimately falls flat, and then picks up at the end again. So I
Well,
think,
these we've mentioned this a few times with when oh, what is it? How many podcasts we've done? Over 250. The ones that are really disappointing, in terms of movies we look back at, are the ones where you can see the good movie in there. And in
yeah,
this is a perfect example of that. This film is so close to being a genuinely good film. It just, as you say, too many moments fall flat. The dialogue isn't quite good enough. The script's not there. The characterization doesn't quite come together. But all the ingredients, all the constituent parts for a great pirate movie are clearly here in terms of the majority of the cast, in terms of the cinematography, in terms of the direction. It's all there. It just doesn't quite come together.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
such a shame. And that is, it makes those moments almost infuriating because my favorite scene, unsurprisingly, is the ship battle at the end, and in
yeah,
particular the sequence where the Reaper explodes and Shaw and Morgan dive off. Perfect timing. So it's a great stunt. They dive off. As they dive off, and of course, because it's not CG, it looks like a stunt show. The ship explodes, and I think you mentioned earlier that you can feel the splinters.
yeah,
That's the difference. You're just like, man, that looks like it's dangerous to fucking be around. It looks phenomenal. But the other scene which jumps out is unequivocally and unquestionably the Port Royal sequence in Jamaica. And you watch those bits of the film and you're like, God damn, this is just great stuff. Great stuff. And then 2 minutes later, you're dealing with the dialogue and the plot again, like, oh, it doesn't fucking work. And it's just, I love those sequences, but they're infuriating as they are magnificent because the rest of the film doesn't do enough to hold them up, sadly.
agreed, totally agree.
Oscar season, in which we hand out 3 Oscars and 3 Razzies. God, in 3 Razzies in categories of our choice. I always fuck that bit up. Cool if I go first?
Feel free.
Won the Oscar for Best Performance by an Animal goes to Shayna the monkey as King Charles. Not mentioned the monkey yet. It does disappear for a little bit too much of the film, Shayna. But yeah, great name, King Charles, and I think it's a fantastic performance for the most part. The Oscar for Best Action Sequence in an otherwise mediocre movie goes to the final battle sequence. Could just as easily be the sequence we just mentioned, Port Royal.
Yeah.
And 3, the Oscar for Best Performance by a leading man and woman that are actually kind of rubbish until the third act goes to Matthew Modine and Gina Davis, who, for the most part, don't really work. But then for that final stretch of the film, you're like, oh no, this is working now. Like if there had been a sequel, it might have been great. Like the way the camera zooms in a few times, you get those action sequences, like where she's being the captain on the boat. And for the first time, I'm really buying her as this leader of pirates. And the camera at one point, it's a fantastic shot. Swoops in from one boat to the other through the smoke, and to her there in a hero pose, going fire, man. I was just like, fuck, that's dope.
Oh,
It's
it
too
looks
late.
great.
It's just too late by then.
It looks great, but your spoiler alert for one of my Razzies, by the way.
Okay, here we go.
Oscar, yeah. For me, Oscar for Best Actor who realized too late what movie he was in. Winner Matthew Modine. He spends the entire film looking like he's trying to remember why he agreed to this.
Yeah, like you said, same as what I said there. Gets there eventually. Just takes about an hour and a half in a 2-hour movie, sadly.
The Oscar for the best villain having the time of his life, Frank Langella.
Great
He's
job.
chewing scenery like it's the last meal on the ship, and I think it works. He's having the time of his life.
I just give him a hat. Give him a hat with a feather. Just give him something.
Yeah. And finally, the Oscar for the best use of gunpowder in a motion picture goes to the entire production. Every scene has explosions. Every single one. It's like the director was paid in TNT.
It's like like the whole juice thing. Like they sent them all that juice, and they didn't drink it, and they almost felt bad about it. And the other thing they asked for was gunpowder, and they're like, "We have to listen. We didn't drink the juice. We have to fucking use this gunpowder." But it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Why would this bar suddenly explode? It doesn't matter. The bar is going to explode. That's the end of it.
You're talking about a map. You literally sat around a room just talking about a map. Why are there explosions?
Just blow it up.
Blowing up.
Blow what up? Just blow it up. Whatever it is, blow the motherfucker up. That's the end of it. The Razzie for worst line in a great scene goes to, unsurprisingly, Bad Dog.
Oh,
The whole section is fantastic. I actually love that sequence when he comes down, and one of the few like moments in this in the movie where you're like, oh, Frank Langella feels like a proper bad guy. The way they shoot it, he comes through
yeah.
the smoke, he's got the sword, and she's like crawling backwards. She genuinely looks like in a lot of trouble. Like, oh, like how's she gonna get out of this? Oh, it's a cannon, awesome. Bad Dog. Oh,
It's
very
his,
upsetting.
it's his creepiness as well when he sees her down there at the beginning before the fight and he goes, "Come to uncle." Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
few weird lines in this film. The Razzie for most confusing start to a movie goes to Cutthroat Island. Mentioned earlier, it feels like you just dropped into a movie. Like, oh, this is like 40 minutes in. I must have skipped. No, no, no. This is the start.
yeah.
And the Razzie for worst map in movie history unequivocally goes to the gross scalp map. Black Harry. Her dad's scalp is the map, and it's
Yeah.
very upsetting.
For me, the Razzie for the most miscast lead is Gina Davis. I mean, she's a brilliant actor in the wrong role. She's directed like she's starring in a Saturday morning adventure serial instead of a gritty pirate epic. She's committed, she's athletic, she's trying, but the film needs swagger, menace, and roguish charm, and the mismatch is impossible to ignore.
Yeah, I guess I'm still undecided on as to whether it's her fault or whether it's the script and the direction. Because I'm
I
convinced by the end, I think she's got the performance in her, and I think you get it for part of the film. You just don't get it for enough.
I
But
don't
you know,
think it's
I'm not going to argue with you. I totally
I don't think it's her fault. I just think it's a mix of everything. You know,
Mhm.
the directing, the plot,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe a bit of her as well. Uh, but yeah, anyway, the Razzie for the most confusing treasure map, winner the plot. The three map
Mhm.
pieces, four factions, and zero moments where anyone stops to breathe.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's just insane.
Really makes sense. Things just happen. Alliances are made. Alliances are lost. You never really care. This film just happens.
Yeah. And finally, the Razzie for the worst attempt at chemistry is Morgan and Shaw. The
Yeah.
romance has the energy of two co-workers forced to share a lift.
No, and just to be clear, by the end of the film, I buy into them as characters. I never buy into them in terms of their chemistry. You
As a
have that
romantic
one
lead, no.
sequence when he's pretending to be a doctor after she's had another one of those classic movie injuries.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's always just above the hip, away from all the internal organs, so you get shot on the side enough to hurt, but something you can get over. He's just digging around inside her, and she's just like, "Ow!" Like, yeah, ow, fuck yeah, ow. And then suddenly they kiss. That kiss came out of nowhere, and it just doesn't work. And by the end of the film, where she's like, basically, and again, it is kind of progressive. The whole, "Come on, you're coming back to the cabin with me for a bit of action." I'm just like, I don't think they want to have sex at all. I just don't buy it. I don't even think they like each other. If you told me that Gina Davis and Matthew Modine fucking hated each other, I'm like, yeah, that checks. That totally
Yeah.
checks. Alternative titles to this film, other than Skelito Island.
It's a lot of island stuff, really.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of pirate stuff. Yeah, I get it.
Albania Treasure Island.
Well, you can't be having that. That's
No.
something else.
Yeah. Argentina, the pirate.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Austria, the pirate bride.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they did think it was Carrie Alvarez. He does
Yeah.
look a bit like him, so
Brazil, the Cut Gorge Island.
could be a translation issue.
Yeah. China, Mandarin.
No, Mandarin's the language.
It just says Mandarin.
Yeah, I think something's gone wrong there. I don't think this film's called Mandarin.
Czech Republic, the island of cutthroats.
That's okay. No, it's not,
Denmark.
because there are no cutthroats on the island.
Denmark, Devil's Island.
Again, doesn't really work. I feel like they haven't watched the film.
Just read the next one. Finland, island of cucumber cutters.
Brilliant. Let's go with that. I guarantee, right? This movie makes more money if it's called that. At least some people would be like, I'm gonna have to see what this fucking cucumber film's about.
Was there any cucumbers in it?
Yeah, people watch it and be like, dude, I can spot a single cucumber. It's like, dude, it's called Cucumber Island. There has to be I'm gonna go watch it just to spot these goddamn cucumbers. That's how it makes more money.
Greece, the island of the Corsairs.
Okay.
Mexico, the pirate.
Mhm.
Portugal watched a completely different film. The Island of Severed Heads. Is that because it was cutthroat?
Yeah, but there weren't really any severed heads. Yeah, maybe it's a translation thing again.
Yeah. Romania, Island of Secrets. Although they did have an alternative title in Romania as well, Slit Neck Island.
Again, that's a translation thing.
Cutthroat,
But yeah, it is, Island of Secrets, I suppose.
yeah.
Secret treasure, sure.
And Vietnam, Slaughter Island.
Well, it's a bit hardcore. And again,
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's that kind of island. Anyway, any facts of this one? There's going to be a bunch, but pick your favorite
Yep.
ones.
When Renny Harlin fired the chief camera operator following a dispute, more than 24 crew members quit.
Ooh. Yeah, that's going to cost him. This is where the budget, which was set at 60 million, starts going up towards 100, 115, 120.
So Michael Douglas was offered the leading role in the film. He wanted to accept under two conditions. Filming had to start immediately because he'd already signed up for other projects. And he had to have the same screen time as Gina Davis. Douglas eventually dropped out of the project when his conditions were not met. Davis wanted to quit as well, but her contract prevented her from doing so.
Yeah, this is a better film with Michael Douglas, without question.
Yeah.
Without question.
Renny Harlin spent $1 million of his own money to rewrite the script. Carolco was in so much debt they couldn't afford it. This script was rewritten.
Yeah. That's the problem. Someone's, yeah. You couldn't see the wood for the trees, maybe, but
yeah,
you got to have a level of commitment. Like, oh no, we have to rewrite this script. I'm going to spend $1 million of my own money, and then you end up with this script. Like, dude.
Several years later, Matthew Modine explained some of the reasons why the film's budget spiraled out of control. Among other things, dozens of cases of V8 vegetable juice were shipped out to Malta, expressly for Renny Harlin and Gina Davis. Towards the end of the shoot, an entire room of V8 was left, so it was served to everybody. Another reason for the high cost was that every scene had 3 cameras in constant use, resulting in yards and yards of film used for every shot.
Doesn't come cheap.
Nope.
But you do get some great action sequences, so there is that.
At one point, Gina Davis and Renny Harlin begged to be let go from the film, knowing it would be a disaster. The studio refused.
Yeah, they'll do that. And I'm sure these are like after the fact. Like Renny Harlin begs to be left in film. He also put $1 million into it of his own money into it. It's like, yeah, there's a clash there, isn't there?
And again, it's fantastic because it's just two different ways to look at this film. Frank Langella considers Dog to be one of his 3 favorite roles. The other 2 are Richard Nixon and Skeletor.
He loves Skeletor. And he's right. Like, right, put it this way. I mean, I've got a real soft spot for Masters of the Universe. We did on the podcast. It was the first time I ever went to see it at the cinema. I genuinely think that's a fun film. It's not a great film, but it's a fun film. But he is great in it. He is fantastic as Skeletor. I know some people might have an issue with the aesthetic. He doesn't look like but that, the purple Skeletor wouldn't have worked in that version of Masters of the Universe. Franklin Keller knocks out the park. And like you say, you can see when someone's having fun and he's just like, I'm playing Skeletor. I'm going to have a fucking good time. It's exactly what he does. And he's great as Big Dog. I know it's not Big Dog, Dog Brown.
Big Dog. It goes on to say because he got to not only be a pirate, but a scenery chewing over the top bad guy pirate. Mm-hmm. Apparently, the man loves being able to just go for a broken and roll. However, he described the movie itself in his memoir as the worst he has ever appeared in. So he loves the role, but hates that.
Yeah, but then, hey, I love that attitude of like, listen, the film wasn't great. I had a great fucking time. And in case you hadn't noticed, I kind of knocked it out of the park.
Right, I'll do 2 more and then we'll leave it there, right? Due to the casting distractions, Renny Harlin hadn't really been able to pay attention to the set and production design. When he finally did, he didn't like any of it. It all had to be redesigned and rebuilt in a rather short time frame. And then the script had to be rewritten to accommodate the changes. Both had a lot to do with driving the film's budget way up. I think they did it on purpose. He wanted to be let out. And he was like, I'm going to fuck him over.
Maybe. Although I think for a lot of people, they must have seen it as a big opportunity. It's like, Renny Harlin, like he's made some pretty big movies by this point. And it's like, you're being given 60, 70, 80, whatever million to make this big pirate epic. You've got the opportunity to do something special here. And obviously, there are clear signs that they were close to making something quite good. It just doesn't work out, which is a shame.
And finally, broken pipes caused raw sewage to pour into the water tank where the actors were supposed to swim.
Lovely. Just lovely.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that has to be fixed. So yeah, it's not going to come cheap.
No.
Hug to the Future. So it's where I ask the question: remake, sequel, let it die, or leave well alone. I think it's pretty easy. You just let it die. We don't need to see a sequel to this. It's not kind of charming enough in its own right to require a remake. And when I say let it die, I don't mean that in a horrible way. It's just like we don't need any more Cutthroat Island. It's fine.
No, you're right. The difference is leave well alone and let it die means. For Leave Well Alone, this film is perfect. It doesn't need to.
Oh yeah. Just
so what I mean is, for us, Leave Well Alone is like the library of whatever, where films are entered into it. You know the ones I'm on about, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Films that,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Or
So
even one where like it might not be perfect, but it just kind of like there's no need to update it because
yeah,
if you watch it now, it's like there's nothing you really do to improve it. A big part of its charm, say it's cast, whatever. Whereas Let It Die usually means, listen, we don't need any more of this.
and if this film disappeared out of everybody's consciousness, we won't be upset. So,
No,
so it is
it is
totally
Let It Die.
100% agreed that it's just let it die.
Yeah, not a mean-spirited one,
No,
but we
no, no,
just
but
don't care.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's hard to really get. It's one of those films. It's really hard, I actually find. It's hard to hate this film, but it's just as hard to love. Like,
yeah,
it's like if someone came out and just said, I think it's the worst film ever, I'm like, that just sounds too harsh. But at the same time, if someone came out and said, oh, I love Cutthroat Island, I was just like, that sounds just as mental, which will bring us to our IMDb section. I'm really looking forward to the 10-star and 1-star reviews for this film. But before we get there, make a change. So if you could only make one change to make this movie better, for me, I've got recast Matthew Modine as Cary Elwes. You mentioned it earlier, and you mentioned the fact that it could have been Michael Douglas. I think that would have been much better. I mean, some of the massive names that turned down this role before Modine got it. It was like Cruise, Reeves, Crowe, Liam
yeah.
Neeson. It was like a who's who. There's a whole bunch of other names, by the way. Modine is fine in it. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of other people I think kind of could have elevated the material, put it that way. So
Agreed.
that'd be my one
Agreed.
change.
For me, it's pick a tone and stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a swashbuckling adventure? Is it a gritty pirate epic? Is it a comedy? Is it a live action cartoon? Just pick something.
I've got the exact same thing written down, but I
Yeah,
can only say one of them. But it was, the tone, it never quite decides what it's going for. And it's
yeah,
one of the biggest issues of the film. In terms of video games, there were a whole, I mean, there was one basically video game made by Acclaim that was ported to a whole bunch of different platforms, which was very, classic for, 1995, that happened all the time. So Cutthroat Island, the video game, came to the Super NES, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, the Mega Drive, all the classics. And it was just like a whole bunch of other video games that were, tie-ins to movies. It was a side scroller. It was largely forgettable. The cover art looks quite nice on the Super NES version. That's probably the nicest thing you can say about it. If you're going to make one today, obviously you could pick something along the lines of Sea of Thieves, but the obvious answer really is Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which is almost, even though they haven't announced it, it's almost certainly getting a remake. I would love to see a Cutthroat Island spin-off for that game. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe even a nod. But yeah, if you're going to make a Cutthroat Island video game, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is got to be the answer.
totally agree. I don't have that as an answer, but I was going to do that, but I thought it might be a bit on the nose, so I looked.
Oh, it's very on the
left.
nose. It's the lazy option for sure.
So I looked a bit left field. Now, I don't usually do this, but I have honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
So The Secret of Monkey Island, specifically 2, I think would work.
Yeah, that's
that style for
a
it.
famous game. I'm not into like point and click adventures, but I know those LucasArts games are absolutely massive and still beloved to this day by many.
Naughty Dog's Uncharted 4 style, like
You
got the island thing and the ships.
He's basically a modern. He is basically a modern day pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but for me, I'm actually.
Wouldn't it be sorry to being the resident Uncharted mega fan? I know it's not the best game, but don't you think Uncharted 1 would have been the best option?
Uncharted 1.
Because it's about a ship and everything.
Yeah.
It's in the jungle.
Well, no,
I just think aesthetically, maybe it would have been the best.
Well, no, because Uncharted 1 is more. Is just that has the submarine in the jungle.
Yeah.
Uncharted 4 has the pirate ship. It has a pirate.
It does. It
has the islands.
I think I've just got caught up with the whole jungle thing in a ship in the. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Uncharted.
but I'm actually with you. I'm going Ubisoft, but I'm going Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Oh, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, you got acrobatics, rooftop chases. The kind of stunts you could easily put them on ships, and in all of these set pieces that they did. You've got a hero who constantly looks overwhelmed but keeps leaping into danger anyway. It's all around the set pieces that I was going to go for more than if I'm looking for a game that has more sailing in it and a lot of this, I probably would have gone for Assassin's Creed. But if I'm just looking for set piece action over set piece action, then I think for me Prince of Persia: Sands of Time would work.
What is it with Ubisoft and pirates? Because didn't they make was it Skull and Bones? That's the other big pirate game by Ubisoft, which I had a quick go of. I'm just not sure if I'm into the whole multiplayer thing, and that game kind of died a death. But and sadly, I mean, they were basically due to release Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, the remake, up until very recently, and they kept pushing it back.
Gutted when
and now it's being cancelled.
It
It's like, how did they fuck that up? How did they fuck up a remake of Sands of Time? I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, that feels like a layup. I'm not saying it wouldn't take a lot of work, but the fundamental gameplay is so like just there. Just even if you just kind of rezzed it up, I think a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, it's still like as long as the gameplay is the same and it just looks a bit more modern, that's fine. And somehow they've shit the bed on that. It's absolute travesty.
Entertainment wise, end of 2025, beginning of 2026 has totally fucked me over, and I'm not happy. Sands of Time, definitely. And now I find out they've cancelled the Terminator Last Ronin live action film they were going to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've just gone. We
It
want to go
just
more
sucks
kid
when you
friendly.
get like when they kind of announce these things and you feel like it's coming along and it's something you're excited for, and then like the rug gets pulled out from underneath
Yeah,
you. And to be honest, I'd kind of forgotten about Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, but when you get reminded of, so, oh yeah, they're developing that.
yeah,
Oh no, we're not anymore because Prince of Persia. I mean, some of my favorite. I love the Prince of Persia remake. I'm not sure if you call it a remake, but it was just called Prince of Persia. It came out in the
yeah. It was
360, cell
the weird
shaded one.
like yeah, yeah.
That
I
was
thought that was good.
fantastic. I
Yeah,
like the subsequent trilogy, and it just felt like one of those games where you're just like, oh, every so often, every couple of years, we get a 3D Prince of Persia game. Everyone seemed happy. They went a bit too dark with the sequels, but fundamentally, everyone loved the gameplay. And then they just abandoned it. It was like with the 2D Castlevania games. I only mention this because they've just finally announced another 2D Castlevania game. Like Konami decided to pull their
yeah.
finger out. But it was like we used to get one like once every couple of years, and then all of a sudden they're just like, we're not making these anymore. You're like, wait, what do you mean you're not making these anymore? It's like you don't realize till 10 years later, you're like, where's all the Castlevania and Prince of Persia? It's just gone. Anyway, moving on.
Whoever bought Paramount, some companies bought Paramount. I can't remember who it was, but they've decided no, we're going kid friendly, so we're going full on kid friendly Turtles. And I'm upset at that because I'm a massive Turtles fan, as you know, anyway. But The Last Ronin is one of the best reads of the last
Yeah,
few
yeah,
years
yeah, yeah.
for me. I think it's fucking fantastic. So to see
Mhm,
that live action, especially considering they said they were going to link it
mhm.
to the original 1990s Turtles.
Which is the best one.
Yeah.
It's
So
easily the
and then
best live
they
action movie.
turned around and gone, no, fuck it, we're not doing it.
I thought
It was
like
going to be R rated as well.
I know it's like what we grew up with, and we covered it on the podcast, so you can go back and listen to our thoughts there. But in terms of like getting the tone, like absolutely bang on, they just nailed it first time because
Yeah,
it is still fun, it is silly, but it has that element of darkness. The
yeah.
first one, like which is linked to like the original comics and stuff, and it's just such a shame that they shut the bed. Anyway, moving on to IMDb, so it's where we pick out a random 10-star and 1-star review. But before we do that, I guess how many written reviews there are for this film. I can't imagine there's that many. It's weird because on the one hand, I'm like, all right, maybe people feel the need to give their opinion because of its, reputation as being one of the biggest box office bombs. But I don't feel like it's a film people talk about anymore. Is it over 100?
Yes, it is over 100.
221.
Oh, fucking hell, dude. 236.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah,
close. Feeling
yeah.
pretty good about that. In terms of 10-star reviews, I bet you there's some constraints. I know it's become a bit of a cult movie. I'm going to go with 21.
Oh, 46.
46? That's a lot, right?
Yeah,
10
yeah.
stars. It's a bold claim.
Right, so this was written in May 2000, titled Swashbuckling Fun at Its Best.
Okay.
Pure joy for fans of old-fashioned sea adventure and entertaining. If stereotypical peg-legged, eye-patch pirates shouting "Arr!", this movie does not pretend to be anything else than it is. Great fun based on popular legends and beliefs rather than facts on pirates' lives. And so much the better. Non-stop action, fantastic score, breathtaking sceneries and props. Adequately fun script, and yes, even good acting. To my surprise, Gina Davis
In his 10-star review, an adequate script.
to my surprise, Gina Davis actually managed to deliver a good performance. Frank Langella is almost as good as a pirate as Walter Matthau was in Roman Polanski's equally underrated pirate classic. Hearing various bad comments about the movie, I had low expectations, but was pleasantly surprised to find out that the bad reviews and comments were simply unfair. Apparently, critics these days follow one another in their opinions rather than actually watching the movies, and people are looking for violence and blood of Mortal Kombat kind rather than simply entertaining, if unrealistic movies like Cutthroat Island. Actually, the movie seems to have been researched quite nicely. It's the first time I've seen Hollywood use actual squad wine bottles in a pirate movie instead of modern shaped ones. Is that how you're going to end it? Oh, they use correct wine bottles.
Well, 10 stars it is. 10 stars
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, I'm not sure about that at all. But I'm glad people like it at least. 1-star reviews. It's weird now because just a moment ago, it feels like I said, "Oh, it's impossible to like truly love this film, but just as much as to like truly hate it." And now you're getting loads of 10-star reviews and probably loads of 1-star reviews as well. I'm going to go with maybe less. I'm going to go back to 21 again.
8 1-stars.
8 1-star reviews, man.
Yeah.
See, tricky one, tricky one.
All right. So this is written in February 2023, so getting a bit closer. Titled Avoid at All Costs.
Bit harsh.
Watched this for the first time recently on TV and God, I wish I had switched channels. That is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I
Not
never said,
surprised.
God, I wish I'd like changed channels. Like, well, why didn't you? I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure you had the power, dude.
not surprised that I subsequently read that it was responsible for the bankruptcy of Carolco Pictures. Shame they didn't pull the plug on this awful movie and saved us the horror of having to watch it. The story is awful, the acting poor, a movie that Gina Davis should have turned down. I had avoided this film for 28 years, and hopefully it'd be another 28 years before I see it again. You don't have to see it again, dude. That's the point.
I know, I know. It's like, I'm not watching this for at least another 30 films. Like, if you really
Yeah.
hate it that much, just don't watch it ever.
But I will make sure I turn over early on. Would give it half a star if I could. Unbelievable that some people have rated this higher. Not a fan.
No, not a fan. A little bit harsh. I actually thought the 10-star review was a little bit more sensible, but I think they're both ludicrous. I could probably get a 1-star review more than a 10-star. Like giving this film 10 out of 10 feels like a real fucking
So
stretch. But
it's got a 5.7 on IMDb
Mhm.
with the average rating being a 6 star.
Wait,
No, 5.7 average. But when you look at the mountain,
yeah.
you've got a lot
Oh,
of sixes.
the most
Yeah.
people gave it the
Yeah.
6. Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was like that didn't make any sense. But yeah, no,
No, because I used the word average twice. It kind of confused the fucking situation.
No.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. You get the bars, and like the majority of people gave this a 6, which I feel is completely reasonable. Which leads us to our own scores and recommendations. I kind of went back and forth on this. In the end, I've settled on a 2 and a no. But even though I wouldn't encourage people to watch this, I wouldn't tell people not to watch this, if that makes sense. Like if someone's like, oh, I fancy rewatching Cutthroat Island, I'd be like, do you know, there's good stuff in there. It's a surprisingly fun 2-star film. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't work. It doesn't all come together. It does have a great, genuinely fantastic finale for the most part, but it's not enough to save the vast majority of the movies. You know, it's like a couple of great set pieces and decent cinematography and some great set design doesn't make a great watch. And the fact of the matter is, for the most time watching this film, I was just a little bit like, the characters aren't coming together. There are just sadly too many problems for this to be a genuinely enjoyable film. But it's fine. It's fine. It's not terrible. It's just like it's just two. It's two.
So I'm with you. So it is a 2-star, and I wouldn't recommend it. But as you've said, you wouldn't shy anyone. I would change that to do so at your own risk.
Yeah. I would
Just,
like,
yeah.
there are certain films you see a 2-star film and you go like, oh, dude, you don't need to see that. I'm like, there's enough good stuff in Cutthroat Island for you to walk away and be like, oh, there's some good stuff in it. The problem is, there's also a lot of stuff which doesn't work, sadly.
Yeah. No, it's agreed. It's a 2 and a no from me.
Well, it's a 2 and a no from the both of us, but a
Yeah.
surprisingly positive 2 and a no as far as they go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been 1995's Cutthroat Island. We're doing the third part of our season of Box Office Bomb podcast next week. It is my choice. The year is 1999. I think you already know what this is, so I'm going to say them all for the listeners so they can guess. 1999. The director is John McTiernan, and you have to remember, that could be a sign of quality, or it could be a sign of rollerball.
Is this before he got arrested? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And it stars Antonio Banderas. I know for a fact you know what this is.
Shall I say it?
Go for it, buddy.
Yeah, it's the 13th Warrior. I figured this was going to be the one.
It is
You've
the
picked a
13th
film.
Warrior.
You've picked a film again where I get obsessed with one line. So
What's
Waterworld was paper. In this
Yeah.
one, after and spoiler for people who haven't watched the film yet, after Antonio Banderas takes one of the Viking swords and turns it into a scimitar or those curved swords, and he demonstrates his skills, Tony Curran, in the most Irish Viking accent ever, goes, "When you're done, can I give that to me daughter?" And I'm just obsessed with it.
Why did you sound Irish when you said it? Can I give it to my daughter? Well, yeah, that was a very
And he's Scottish, isn't he,
response.
Tony Curran?
Yeah, well, we're all getting very confused. To be honest, I can't remember anything about this film other than the sequence when he learns how to speak whatever it is, Norwegian, Viking, Swedish.
Yeah,
and I thought that was
just
dealt
watching
with.
their lips.
Yeah, and the way they kind of like, a bit at a time, you suddenly realize they're speaking English because, it has to work for us. And I was just like, it was, and I know it's been done since, but I remember at the time, I was like, that felt like a really smart way of showing you him learning a language and then making sense of the fact that they're all speaking English on screen. I'm just like, I'm suddenly on board with this. But the rest of the film, I can't really remember, but what I do remember is that I liked it. Like, it was another one of those movies where I knew about its reputation more than anything else, because this is close on the list. I know we mentioned the fact that Cutthroat Island was Guinness Guinness Book of Records as the biggest box office flop of all time. We mentioned those Disney movies, which might be even bigger when adjusted for inflation. If you look at the numbers, this film is also right up there. So this was a massive box office bomb. And again, it felt like, to me at least, it kind of came and went. And then I knew about it as this box office bomb more than anything else. And then I watched it, I was like, oh, it's actually pretty good. But it has admittedly been the best part of 30 years since I watched it. So
budgeted at 160 million, gross worldwide, 61 million. So pretty much the same, on par with...
It's that interesting
Cutthroat.
thing again, because Cutthroat feels more dramatic because it made so little, but this was even more expensive, and that's why those Disney films are at the top of the list. They didn't, like, the Cutthroat one seems so dramatic because it made such a small amount at the box office, but all these other films just cost like ludicrous amounts of money to make. And I can't remember anything about that film which would suggest that it needed 160 million pounds put on the screen. So I'm going to assume that there were some production issues, put it that way.
Possibly. If I remember rightly, there was a couple of like little scenes as well where Kit up and like everybody, like Lord of the Rings style attack on one of the Helm's Keep or whatever it is, kind of. Yeah, whatever.
Well, I'm like, I know I picked it, but we'd already talked about this before. I am genuinely looking forward to revisiting this. For those listening in from the UK, it's on Disney Plus at the moment, so it's relatively easy to access if you do have Disney Plus. If not, obviously you can rent it in the usual places. But yeah, that's been 1995's Cutthroat Island. Please do join us next week for 1999's John McTiernan classic with a question mark, The 13th Warrior. Rob, anything to add before we wrap this up?
My one is my other choice. I'm going to go straight there. I'm not going to tell you what my other choice is.
Yeah, go for it.
But my other choice is out of left field a lot. Like, it was only budgeted at 70 million, but it only made 19 million. So to me, that's still a box office bomb.
Yeah, it's a massive box office bomb.
But
yeah, it looks like that's the thing. When you add all the production costs, that's probably lost like 90 million.
So when I tell you what it is for next, I'll tell you next week. I'm not telling you now. You're gonna go, what the fuck? Like, but
it's not one of the classic ones you think of in terms of
no. It's probably a lot of ones where people don't remember it. But
is it? It's probably just gonna be a film. I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
No, you know it. But I have a soft spot for this film, a real soft spot. I'm already talking about my choice. We haven't even got to yours yet, but I just went for the box office.
I think that's good that you're picking one that you actually want to revisit, though, because I did kind of use this whole the idea of this season as an excuse to do Waterworld, because I was like, I want to do Waterworld, but I was like, if we're going to do Waterworld, we might as well do the box office bomb thing, and that's led to the 13th Warrior. And don't get me wrong, I'm quite happy about watching 13th Warrior, but if it wasn't for the fact that we were doing box office bomb season, I don't think I would have ever picked the 13th Warrior.
I think at some point I would have picked it because I still have an enjoy. Again, Cutthroat Island, 1999. I had an enjoyment of that film, 95. And I can remember that random 13th Warrior.
Yeah, sorry.
I have an enjoyment of 13th Warrior, and for some reason that line sticks in my head, even though I've seen this film once, possibly twice.
I've definitely seen it once, 100%.
But again, like you, I have fond memories of it. Whether or not they stick next week, we'll see. But
it's just every so often I get this with films. I think I mentioned it before with the Coen Brothers remake of True Grit, where my only memory of that film was like, I remember really liking it. But I was like, that was it. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in that entire film other than the fact that I liked it. And I have every confidence that if I watch it again, I'll still enjoy it. But for some reason, nothing individual, like no moment from the film has truly stood out. And I feel like it's the same thing with The 13th Warrior. I just remember liking it. I don't remember anything else other than the aforementioned language sequence. But it doesn't sound I'm like, oh, what's your favorite scene in the whole film? Oh, it's the bit when he learns to speak English. I was like, how much does this film cost? 160 million. That doesn't add up. Anyway. I'm Liam, he's Rob. Wait, sorry, is that right? I've been Liam, you've been Rob, and I've fucked it up. See, I always read it. I try to do off the cuff.
You've been listening to the Hey You Guys podcast.
He's been Rob, and you've been listening to the Hey You Guys podcast. I apologize. What a terrible way to end the podcast.
That's fine. Thank you for telling me I've been Rob. You've been Rob.
You've been Rob. Someone's been Rob. I've definitely been Liam. Somebody's been Rob, and hopefully somebody out there has been listening. So fundamentally, it makes sense. We got there eventually.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Cheers, bye. Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk, get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Fire!